So it's great that we're getting a chance to talk to both of you because you're such different kinds of leaders. The course is designed to allow you to emerge in your way as a leader.
When we're in the leadership class, it was good to just talk about what skills we have learned in the academic environment and then try to apply that in a real-world experiential exercise. That's what it is. So I think that just trying to learn the skills first and then applying it in the exercise really helped a lot.
One thing I took from the leader module is that you don't have to lead all the time. And part of being a leader is following at times. So when I was president at the food corp exercise, I chose key members of the class that were more knowledgeable than myself with certain aspects of our decision making. I chose them to lead, and I observed and gave my input, and that's how I led.
I'd be interested in knowing for each of you what it was that you got the most out of the class. What were some doors that opened for you, some things you saw about leadership or about yourself that you hadn't seen before the class began? In particular, with Corey, I'd like to ask you if you remember going back to the exercise of the total organization. And the class was in chaos, which is the beginning of the exercise. And in your own quiet, subtle way, you brought organization to that chaos. But you were a very, very quiet leader. And even by the end, people didn't know who was the leader in this group. They kind of looked around, and then all of a sudden it dawned on them that it was you. Could you talk a little bit about what happened to you? What did you see happening that brought that out for you?
As you said, there was a lot of chaos, and I just thought that being a leader means that other people also have chances to lead. There's different ways to lead, maybe leading from a non-verbal perspective, and then one leading with a very aggressive approach. Some people were trying to talk a lot. A lot of times where I like to try to lead is thinking all the time actions speak louder than words. Just taking a step back and then trying to organize everything and see where the group's themes and tones and feelings are going, and then try to point it in the correct direction. So it's not to say that I would want other people to not be leaders as well. It's just trying to understand in which direction the group is going toward and trying to maximize that self-interest of it.
Well, I think you even surprised yourself a bit. I know you surprised a lot of people in class. How about you, Tomas? Do you remember that exercise?
I do remember that. We pretty much had come to a standstill, and then Corey stood up and he went to the board and he started to organize the chaos, basically.
It was a fun exercise because I wanted to let other people go first, because in my character I'm very polite and I'm trying to be very formal as well. But the pressure for time came up, then I tried to think we have to utilize everything as best as we can. So maybe this suggestion will be the best utilization.
I was pretty astounded because you had been so quiet up until that time. You were one of the quieter students in class, and so when you had that vision of how to pull that together, I was really surprised, but happily surprised to see you take that role and find out about yourself. You had that vision and that you could step in, and there are a lot of what you would call the more assertive leaders in that class, and they were a bit lost, and you had the vision.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it was definitely a great learning experience.
And then for you, Tomas, I was surprised you took on the presidency of Food Corp.
I've never actually managed people before, so this was my first experience of actually having a sort of positional power over people. So the learning came from me actually filling that role and actually having positional power and trying to figure out how to use it and not abuse it. So that's where my learning experience came from.
Why do you think the class chose you? What did they see in you?
I think I'm pretty diplomatic, and I know how to talk to people, and I know how to ask people to do things and actually have them do it without feeling pressured to do it.
So at the end of that exercise, I remember we did the feedback session. What did you think about that? What did you learn, and what was that feedback session like for you?
Feedback session was good. We have to really communicate and convey that information. So I think that I definitely reflected on that and have in the last few months and tried to improve that.
During the reflection portion of the exercise, 3 people had to give each person feedback. And it turns out My strategy to actually lead prior to the exercise, put together the different groups with the different people, and give my recommendations beforehand. It was a decent strategy, but I should have done more leading throughout the exercise. And the feedback I received told me that, because basically I didn't make some decisions that I should have. Although they were made correctly by the people that I had appointed to those leadership positions, I should have stepped up and made a decision much sooner than they did. So the feedback was very important, very crucial to the exercise.
I've had a number of the other students from your cohort in my electives, and it seems like that bonding really did take place. You became very close, and I can see it from my side of it, but what's that like from your side of it?
I think it's great. Coming to a city where I didn't know anybody and just being welcomed into this group of students where you're together 14 hours a day, just in the trenches, studying until 1 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And not only is the cohort system a support system, but also the professors. I think the professors are great. We have all their cell numbers. Their doors are always open when we need to talk to them. So the professors are a great resource and offer a great support system here as well. And also I think the faculty did a great job organizing the MBAI modules. It kind of reminds me of a relay race, where one class finishes, then the next class hands the baton over to the next module.
I decided I wanted to teach in the program because it was a new and exciting program. But once I stepped into the classroom and I met your class, then for me the motivation was how motivated you were, and the level of students that you were, and the level that you came to the class with of motivation, dedication. You worked so hard. I was just so impressed with how hard you worked, and that's what motivated me.